And just a little intro about you and the company.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Chris from Corefact. We're a marketing company. We do a lot of print, primarily direct mail, commercial print, work with PSPs, B2B, B2C, so on. Based in California and Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, how does automation help?
Well, I would say, automation is somewhat in our DNA. We started as a software company, and early on we got into print, and we really embraced it, and been building that, and automating both the digital print side, but everything from the marketing side, customer acquisition, things of that. So automation effectively runs across the entire gamut of our company. We have a robot. Yeah.
Tell me.
Automation is an evolution, right? You incrementally get better and better, and then, eventually you look at inefficiencies in the system. And for us, we were moving lots of jobs between the press and different stations in the bindery. And what we found is the press operators were walking jobs over, and we don't want that. We want the press operators running the press 24 hours a day, right? So every time they stepped away, either there's a quality issue or the press stops, runs out of paper. We don't want that. So we have a simple cart robot, and you press a button, it says, okay, go to book cutting, go to lamination, go to shipping. And the beautiful thing about the robot is it shows up every day, all day. Its only meal break is we change the battery, and then it's good for another 8 hours. And it hasn't complained once. It's awesome. And it was dirt cheap. This robot, if you think about robotics, the price is coming down, just like technology and everything else. This robot was $15,000. And I calculated 66 trips per day that it's eliminated. And that's just the beginning, right? So eventually we're looking at robotics across different parts of the plant.
Now, as you're doing those calculations, obviously there's a bigger plan.
Yeah.
Where do you start?
With automation? Yeah. So if I had to choose, I would start really with customer acquisition. It's not what this audience, we talk a lot about print here, but really for us, marketing automation, building your book of business, right? Because if you don't have the orders, it doesn't matter how many presses you have. So really focusing on your sales and marketing side. Then when you get into print, you can decide you can start at the beginning or the end. And when I say the beginning, it's order ingestion, right? How do I get the orders in? How do I standardize those orders? Create ticketless jobs and things like that. And then as you evolve and you walk down the path, eventually you start wanting to automate finishing, right? Because finishing, believe it or not, your bindery is probably where most of your labor is. And that's where most of the mistakes come into creating reprints or inefficient use of resources. And so I think that's the ultimate holy grail, is when you go end to end, customer acquisition to finishing, and then even things like shipping and returns, right? So make it really easy for the customer to interface with your customer service so that they don't have to spend time on the phone. Automation is something, when you think high level, it's through your entire business. And ultimately it's a journey and it's iterative, right? You start on day one with something really small, and you add to it and you add to it and add to it. And like us, we've been in business 19 years now. Eventually you get a lot.
Charlie? You mentioned that automation, sorry Chris, is an evolution, right? And so as the three of you have been growing these companies, what are some of the pain points, or what are some of the stumbles that you had as you were going?
When you start out, the biggest problem is you don't know what you don't know, right? You have to figure out where to start, and that's the hardest thing. And like you just mentioned, I really think, coming to this show, you can find a mentor. There's hundreds of people here who have probably been through this journey and are at different stages of the journey. You can talk to them, talk to the vendors, and really automation starts with a plan and a vision, and really an education. And eventually, then you think you know everything, and you only find out you don't know anything.
Absolutely.
Because somebody else does it wow, how'd you do that? And you do that.
Yeah, right on. And that, I think, that really embodies what Dscoop is as a community, right?
Yeah.
We talk all the time about you come here and you have these conversations and you have this mind-blowing thing, and those are real things you take back, right, to your companies, to your teams. And it's fascinating because it all starts here. So tell us a little bit, or for the group who isn't e-com or isn't in this kind of business just yet, tell us what a peak season is like.
Yeah, we're pretty much the same. We go from maybe thousands of orders a day to 10,000 orders a day, 24/7. We have to figure out which supervisor is going to work the grave shift. The biggest challenge for us for that time is just recruiting temporary people that are good and that we can train and how to work that all out. But it's awesome.
So with us, as we have implemented more automation, it's been awesome to see our team rally around that, right? Because they're thinking about how can we do this better? What about this part? What about this part? And they've really come to embrace that. Have you seen that as you've transitioned through this evolution as well?
Yes, and it's never about getting rid of people. Because generally, our business traditionally grows 20+% year over year, and so. But what that means is you can't just throw bodies at problems over time, right? The problems become too large or too complicated where you need automation. And you want to keep a certain level of profitability, right? We're not in business just to lose money. So you have to find the right balance, I think, in terms of employee growth. I'd rather have fewer employees and pay our employees more, and build a long-term relationship with them. It's expensive to live. Inflation is what it is. And ultimately, the more automation we get, the more profitable we get, the more we can share that, and then the more successful we can be. So really, at the end of the day, for us, it's about creating something that makes our customers successful. The more automation, the more accuracy we can put into the system, the happier our customers are, the more likely they're going to get more business, which is what we want. We want our customers to be successful, and then they reciprocate and they give us more business, and then we all win. And in the software development side, really gives you the ability to be agile, right? Because if you're one of the hardest things to do is integrate different technologies that work very differently. And sometimes it's easier to be able to build that glue if you have your own team that understands the business problems, right? The problem with oftentimes between outsourced development and inside development is the outsourced development doesn't understand the business. And so they often will build something that'll be wrong. And so then you have to get really detailed with requirements. And when they're inside and they know what the customers are thinking, they know what the business needs, then usually you can operate much more efficiently from a software development standpoint. But I think when you get to a certain size, it becomes mandatory.
So what about for our members who are sitting here that might be a little overwhelmed by this, right? There's lots of things you can do. Everything needs to be automated. Where do you start? How do you pick a lane?
I'd say be humble, None of us know everything, right? And so I happen to be colorblind, right? So I'm not going to be able to do those color profiles. So I need someone to help me with that. And just like software development, automation, you need partners, you need friends. A lot of us here compete, but we're all frenemies, right? We're not really competing. And you know what? The more we can learn, understand, the more all of our businesses can grow. So I think you've got to embrace being humble. You have to say, okay, what I think is so proprietary and unique is not. Everybody's already thought of the same thing. And I think once you let go of that and you open your mind that, gosh, we win together, then I think, you start making that path. And like I said earlier, you start with one small step, and that's probably education, and then you just keep going. Eventually you get there.
The whole idea of getting started, I think when you get into development and coding, some people get a little intimidated. But then when you got into it, you obviously have a little bit of coding experience behind you. You said, wow, this is way easier than I thought. Can you just kind of...
The truth is, a lot of the tools, the automation, you already have it. The difference is you don't have the glue, right? You don't have the glue to fill in all the different details and to move the workflows. And that is surprisingly easy if you know how to do it, right? So you don't need PhDs to do this kind of stuff. Like last year I went to the hackathon, and we learned about JDF and JMS. And we had primarily worked on a hot folder system prior to that. I said, gosh, this JDF JMS stuff is easy. And I wrote the code myself, the first version, and I gave it to our software development team. They had us move from the hot folder system to a JDF system for our direct mail business, which is the biggest, in roughly 3 days. So then we said, gosh, now we're moving files around still. This is lame. Let's move to JMS. So then we moved to JMS, and then instead of having to scan a barcode after it comes off the press to say it's printed, now we automatically know that. We know how much that job costed. And it was surprisingly easy. I mean, we're talking days of code to do this. So from an investment standpoint, it is relatively simple. From a knowledge standpoint, it's hard because it took me 18 years to figure out I needed to move this way. That was an education thing. And coming here, I learned that last year. I was like, wow, boom. And we were able to do it. And now we're building a new product called Print Planet, which really manages all of our press schedules across the different plants, and also is going to optimize for price, efficiency, customer location, things like that. So I think you take one step, and then as you peer into it, you see more and more opportunity, and you just iterate, and it gets better and better.
Round of applause.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys.